Pelicans and the Grizzlies made a trade yesterday. The Pelicans received Jonas Valanciunas, the 17th pick, and the 51st pick. The Grizzlies received Steven Adams, Eric Bledsoe, who is not staying in Memphis. They already announced it. The 10th pick and the 40th pick, and a 2022 first rounder via the Lakers, which is top 10 protected. I love this trade. I love it for the Pelicans. Jonas Valanciunas is a major upgrade over Steven Adams offensively. He's a better floor spacer. He can hit a mid-range jump shot. Even though he can't hit threes consistently, he only took one a game and shot 37% from the three, which is still good, but it's not enough of volume to really say he's a good three-point shooter. I think from the mid-range is where he'll give Zion more space to operate. And the Pelicans relieving that cap space, relieving those contracts of Adams and Eric Bledsoe, I think are freaking huge. And you can make an argument that last year, the reason why the Pelicans were so bad is because Steven Adams and Eric Bledsoe just didn't fit with that team. So now you get those guys out. You bring Jonas, who fits, who was arguably Memphis' second best player all year last year. I think that's a major upgrade. And at pick 17, the Pelicans right now are in the business of getting a player who can impact winning right now. They don't want to bank on potential. They already got that with their players. They want a Corey Kispert. They want a Trey Murphy. They want a Chris Duarte. They want those NBA-ready guys. And I think at 17, either Murphy, Duarte, or Kispert will be there at 17, and they can draft one of them. So I think this was a great move for them. And at pick 51, maybe Jeremiah Robinson Earl is there. They've already worked him out, and they're high on him. He can be there. He's NBA-ready as well.
Villanova guys succeed in the league a lot.
Yeah, I like his game. And the Grizzlies, this is about the 10th overall pick. I think Steven Adams he's not an upgrade defensively, slightly. Eric Bledsoe is not going to play. They have Tyus Jones and D'Anthony Melton, so he won't play. The 10th overall pick is between 5 players to me. Davion Mitchell, James Bucknight, Keon Johnson, Moses Moody, and Josh Giddey. I think Bucknight gets taken 8 to Orlando or earlier. I think Keon Johnson will be there. I think Moody will be there. I think Mitchell, depending if he goes 7, we're not sure. He might not be there. He might be there. And I think Giddey will be there as well. If I were picking, if it's not Bucknight at 10, I'm picking Josh Giddey, and I'm not looking back. My second option would be Moses Moody, though.
You know, this trade kind of was like, I was in the gym when this trade happened. I was just kind of like, oh. But then, like, later in the day, I really looked at this trade. Valanciunas is a good player. You know, he's a guy who can, like you said, he can hit the mid-range, but he's still more of a post-up player, a guy who likes to dig in the paint and do a lot of his dirty work. I would say this is an upgrade from Steven Adams, but I feel like this still doesn't solve their ultimate problem, which is spacing for Zion. I think it's more of a Band-Aid, but I don't think this really solves the problem that they need more spacing for Zion and Brandon Ingram. But they did unload on Eric Bledsoe and Steven Adams contracts, which was huge, especially for Eric Bledsoe because he's horrible. They did give up the 10th pick, but they got picks back so they can still get a quality NBA player at this level. And they filled up some cap space, and I think that's good for them too. So now they can maybe go out and get another player in free agency, a quality guy. And for Memphis, you know, getting the 10th pick, which I didn't even know they wanted, you know, getting the 10th pick where they can pick another guy because they know they're not a destination for free agents. They know that. So I think with the 10th pick, you can still get a possible all-star potentially in this draft, or you can still get a quality starter for years to come in this draft. It's huge for them. They still keep their main core of John Morant, Jaren Jackson, Kyle Anderson, Dylan Brooks. So, you know, they still get their main core. And Steven Adams, he isn't a bum. You know, he can guard bigs. He rebounds. He's a great screener. He's a great outlet passer. So it's somebody you can keep around. Like you said, Bledsoe isn't going to stay. But if I had the 10th pick, obviously I would go Bucknight if Bucknight wasn't there. But if Bucknight goes –
he was there.
Sorry. Obviously I would take Bucknight if he is there. But if Bucknight is not there, I would go Moses Moody. I think it fills their need of shooting and it keeps their identity of defense. And I wouldn't look back with that pick.
All right. I like Moses Moody.
You kind of said a lot of what I was thinking on this trade. I love it for the Pelicans. I think they get at least one horrible contract off in Bledsoe and one also fairly bad one in Steven Adams for a guy in Valanciunas who I think fills the role better than Steven Adams did for less money. I think although he doesn't fully solve the problem of the spacing, he makes it much better. Especially, it never worked with Adams down there. Jackson Hayes is his backup, and Zion at the 4. Like, that was a recipe for disaster. So now bringing in Valanciunas, at least, like you said, adds some shooting to the 5 position. There's still some work to be done there, but I think it will make them a better team. I think last year they got a little trigger happy because they wanted to try and please Zion and Brandon Ingram, and they made some moves that in hindsight made no sense. And then the other thing that this trade does for them is if they want to match Alonzo Ball offer sheet, they can do so. They have the salary cap to do that now, so something to consider for them. I don't know if they're going to want to go out and give him a max contract if that's what he gets somewhere, but it's something that they can consider now, which wasn't a luxury in the past. For the Grizzlies, I don't love it as much, but I see what they're trying to do. Like you said, the jump from 17 up to 10 puts them in a whole different echelon of players that they can look at with that pick. And they're not, as much as they succeeded this past year more than I thought they might, they're not in a win-now spot. They have a lot of young guys that are still developing. They can afford to take on these 2 bad contracts while taking that higher pick and get another young player that can develop. They're in that rebuilding mode. Did they say what they're going to do with Bledsoe?
They're probably going to trade him or cut him, one of those.
So I wonder what they'll do with
yeah, because they already said he's not going to be a part of their plans.
Boy,
and
not
then
playing.
hypothetically, like, it might be a long shot, but you look at Steven Adams, and maybe they do something like what the Thunder did. They just feed him some touches, get his numbers up, and trade him off the deadline to somebody who wants a big man and get more assets. The Sam Presti trade machine, like what they've been doing the past couple of years, it's something to consider. So I like this move for both sides, more so for the Pelicans, but I think it works for both teams.
I think with the beauty of Memphis is they're at a good pace with their progression. I think the grit and grind era with Mike Conley, that's over with. Marcus. So I think, but right now with John Moran and Jaren Jackson, they're slowly progressing back to a consistent playoff team. I mean, we seen last year John Moran in the playoffs. He did what a lot of second-year players couldn't do.
Yep.
Not gonna say any names, but he balled out against Utah.
Talking about R.J. Barrett,
he balled out against Utah, and I think the team did a lot of growing last year. Dylan Brooks coming to his own as one of the best perimeter defenders in the league. So I think now with this pick, they get to just continue on with their pace because they're not going to be a high-level marquee in free agency. So
Moses Moody is a really good player. I wouldn't be upset if they drafted him with that 10th pick because I think he fits the profile of a 3-and-D shooting guard. He does have some potential to be a very good shot creator. And, yeah, I really like his game. I do. My pro comparison for Moses Moody is Gary Harris. I've said it before. He has very little bust potential. It's just about how good can he be. I'm not sure about how good he can be. When you look at Memphis right now, their young players, they have John Moran, Dylan Brooks, Jaren Jackson Jr., Desmond Bane, Brandon Clark, Xavier Tillman. What stands out to me is that those are a lot of guys that can space the floor. They play tough, really good defense. What doesn't stand out to me is that they don't have a guy who can make at all outside of John Morant. It's just John Morant, and everybody else is just there watching.
Why do you believe that?
Because I do.
Tyus Jones and Kyle Anderson can do that.
Oh, that's their young core. Come on. I'm talking about their young core. Guys
who are going to be part of their plan.
I'm talking about their young core.
All right.
That's why, to me, the 2 guys that stick out are Davion Mitchell and Josh Giddey. Davion Mitchell is 23 years old. Are you really going to have a backcourt of Ja and Davion Mitchell? That's the smallest backcourt in the league, probably as small as Cleveland's right now. Are you really going to draft Davion at 10 if you don't plan on starting him and plan on having him come off the bench? I don't think that's their plan. That's why, to me, Josh Giddey makes sense, to have another player to relieve pressure off of John Morant and that can also score and get his own bucket and facilitate the offense. I think that is a great fit. Memphis has shooters, man. They have shooters. I know they were bad at three-point shooting last year, but if you have John Moran, Josh Giddey, and then, wait up, if Kyle Anderson, let's just say Desmond Bane develops into a point where he is that starting small forward. No, I'm forgetting about Dylan Brooks. I'm sorry. Dylan Brooks, who can shoot, Jaren Jackson Jr., they can go small and go Ja, Giddey, Brooks, Jackson, and
Kyle
Anderson. They can go small and go like that. I think that's a good type of spaced out lineup. And I think too much times we pay attention to 3-point percentage a little bit too much. For example, with Lonzo Ball. He was really good from the 3 this past season. but teams are still playing off of him a bit because they don't respect his shot fully. I think it matters more that you're a lower 3-point percentage shooter, but teams respect you more than being a high percentage 3-point shooter, but teams aren't respecting you as much because, it doesn't suck in the defense as much. So because of that, I think that's not a bad lineup for Memphis. It's not. And I think Giddey solves that playmaking crisis for Memphis when they're not relying on Ja. Even DeAnthony Melton, he's good, but he's not a playmaker.
You said a lot. You said a lot.
Tell me where I was wrong.
No, I want to go back to your point where you talked about Lonzo Ball. What was the point of you bringing that up? That he's not really respectable because people sag off Ja Morant a lot. He's not really a respectable guy in the league yet.
I said I think it matters more that you get guys who have the reputation. For example, if Duncan Robinson shoots a lower percentage from 3 than Alonzo Ball, I would still rather Duncan to be a floor spacer because he has that reputation that we can't leave this guy open. I'm not sure how it correlated to my Memphis point.
I was trying to
but
figure out
I just wanted to make that point out there because I had it in my head.
Sorry. Okay, that was my only. I was just trying to figure out how that correlated.
Another part of this deal that kind of flew under the radar was that Lakers first round pick too. I think it's top 10 protected next year.
Which is cool because Lakers won't be a top 10 team.
Exactly.
Or top 10 lottery team.
And then you consider 2023, which I believe would be the year that they would get an unprotected pick if the Lakers.
This is for Memphis.
Yeah. So if they get that pick in 2023, who knows what happens to the Lakers by then? Anthony Davis, he could be somewhere else. LeBron could be somewhere else. Nobody knows what's going to happen to that Lakers team. Even if they don't add anything in these next 2 years, LeBron's going to be on the downtrend by then, you would imagine, but who knows with him? And Anthony Davis with the injury issues, who knows where he goes from here? So that's also an interesting pick to think about as they move forward.